All right, so I literally just got back from watching Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and it's funny because I started this channel covering Dragon Ball Super content, and I haven't done a Dragon Ball video in forever. So I guess back to your roots. But yo, welcome everyone, Sanjay Uchiha here. Of course, we'll be talking about the movie. Spoilers will be ahead. So, if nothing else, did I enjoy myself? Yes, yes, I did. It was a very enjoyable experience. If I'm if I'm being quite honest, very enjoyable experience. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, I would highly recommend watching it. And it's crazy as opposed to this is a review, but a bit kind of all over the place because I want to kind of form like a discussion with you guys. Like you're just coming out of the theater and you're just talking to somebody about the movie. Yeah, I want to kind of make it feel that way. But yeah, like it was a really enjoyable experience. And it's crazy because as opposed to like the promotionals, all the trailers and everything, like when we just started to get information about this movie, I wasn't really as hype as Broly. It was only when the last few trailers came out I was like, okay, I'm getting a bit more excited, a bit more interested. And besides how it was marketed, it and the CGI, maybe the combination of those factors that made me not as excited about it as compared to Brawling. But yeah, definitely an enjoyable movie. Like if I were to give my rating before really deep diving into it, definitely a 7 out of 10 movie for me. Don't think I'd go higher than a 7.5, but definitely like a 7 out of 10 movie. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. And I just brought it up, funny enough. The CGI. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first Dragon Ball property or piece of media that's really made such heavy use, if at all, made such heavy use of CGI. And to be honest, going into it, like for me, like after the first 5 to 10 minutes, I think it just grew on me. Honestly, like yeah, there are some scenes that probably could have looked better, maybe. But to be honest, after the first 5 to 10 minutes, it just kind of just like you notice it, but it doesn't really take you too much out of the movie. But that's just me, if I'm being quite honest. The other thing I want to talk about before we even go further is like, yes, I think Broly. I think I enjoyed the Broly movie more, but one thing I will praise this movie for is like structurally overall, I think it's a more refreshing watch than Broly. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like yeah, overall I'd give Broly a higher rating, but I think structurally this movie just works better for me compared to Broly. And what I mean by that is that with Broly you had this whole build up, and then this whole fight. I think how things were kind of structured with this in terms of the fights were spread out, and they were in between moments of calm, and then you get to a fight, calm, then get to a fight. So I think that worked much better structurally compared to like say the Broly movie, even though overall I do give the Broly movie a higher rating. So there's definitely that. But as I said, spoilers ahead. So for those of you who don't know, but I don't know who doesn't know, this movie surrounds the son of Commander Red Magenta, of the late Red Ribbon Army. He seeks to actually resurrect the Red Ribbon Army and get rid of Goku and his friends essentially. So he contracts or basically recruits the grandson of Dr. Gero, who we're just finding out about, very convenient I know, to actually get some backup, boosts his army's power by creating androids. And of course, Dr. Hero himself, he's interested in creating the ultimate android with I wouldn't say an obsession, but a very like a love for superheroes essentially. So Magenta essentially convinces Hero that Goku and his friends are the bad guys essentially, quote unquote. And of course therefore goes the plot of the movie in terms of putting as it's a Piccolo and Gohan movie, putting their group in conflict with the quote unquote resurrected Red Ribbon Army. So that's essentially the plot. Now in terms of what worked for this movie, I would definitely say just this, it's not even really slice of life, but just the interactions and the dynamic between Pan and Piccolo, that definitely worked for me. Like it was just cute to watch. It was just nice and refreshing to watch, and I thought it really did a good job of being part of like the more slower sections, or just the sections where there wasn't a lot of fighting. It was just kind of refreshing to see how their dynamic kind of just melds on screen. Probably a bit more cuter than the whole Piccolo Gohan dynamic. And of course, Piccolo does mention throughout the movie that, Pan seems to be a bit more, she's a bit more into this whole fighting thing compared to Gohan. Like she has more, not necessarily potential, but she's kind of learning faster, and especially she's just 3. So that puts this movie, at least timeline wise, 1 year before the end of Z. So there's that for those persons that are interested in where this movie actually takes place throughout the timeline. So there's that. So yeah, definitely the chemistry between Piccolo and Pan, definitely a plus. Pan herself, definitely cute, definitely awesome character in this movie. She's an amazing actress. There's a situation where Piccolo has to kind of make use of her to get Gohan to the Red Ribbon Beast, but there's that. Pan and Piccolo's chemistry in this movie, definitely awesome, and there's that. So there's that. The fight scenes. And again, back to the CGI. The fight scenes really, like, they flowed well. And even for the moments that your eye could actually pick it up, because even though it's mainly CGI, there are obviously 2D scenes kind of mixed in. And for the moments that your eye could actually, like, get a glimpse of it, like, yeah, the traditional 2D scenes in this movie actually look really good. Once your eye, like for a split second, you might say, oh shit, that looked like traditional. And they even had some kind of flashbacks of like the cell arc in like traditional, 2D visual style. And that was good. Those scenes were good. But overall, the animation and how the fights actually flowed, especially in terms of like choreography and everything, definitely worked really well. So there's that. In terms of the antagonists, the Gammas, to be honest, the Gammas they're for this movie at least. They're because I don't think with how things are structured, there wasn't really enough time to really like super develop them. I could be wrong on that, but I think they were charming enough to say, oh yeah, these guys are cool. They're charming and endearing enough for the movie's purposes at least, and the fact that they were androids. Granted, they had personality, but beyond that, in terms of having any complex depths, there wasn't anything beyond like, yeah, their personalities are charming and endearing, but for the sake of this movie, that actually gets the job done. So that's not really a strike against the movie per se. So there's that. Of course, Goku and Vegeta are in this movie, but funny enough, before going to this movie, I did check out a lot of reviews and everything, and I got the impression, even though yeah, they weren't in the movie for any like ridiculous amount of time, but for some reason when I went into the movie, I kind of expected us to get less than we actually got. That's the impression that's the impression I got from everybody else on like YouTube in terms of Goku and Vegeta and Broly's screen time in this movie. Yeah. But for what we got, I thought it was pretty decent. Some negatives do come from those sections though. I know some persons were saying like the how things looked on Beerus' planet looked kind of off. To be honest, like at that point in the movie, as I said, like after 10 minutes in the CGI is like, it's whatever to me at that point. So, and I'm not saying like I still prefer like the traditional 2D traditional style of how the animation is actually done, but like like after a while it's just like it just didn't really matter too much, like I was trying to kind of focus on like if there was anything off model with the CGI models and anything, but to be honest, after a while it's just like that's just like at the back of my head. There wasn't anything that really took me out of the experience, like in terms of the CGI too much. Like it's not like, oh, and like you're watching anime and there's like this string or like a sequence of bad animation is noticeable. Nothing really took me out of it. So, but that's just me. So there's that. Of course, the final villain, Cell Max, in this movie. Of course, it kind of has that Bio Broly vibe, but it has a Bio Broly vibe, but with the excuse that Cell Max wasn't really like a completed creation in this movie. So I guess you could have that excuse for the most part. So yeah. So in terms of the CGI, it wasn't bad after like the first 5 to 10 minutes. It kind of just like your mind just kind of blends in with it, and it's like you just accept it. It didn't really, there wasn't anything that really took you out of the movie too much. Maybe somebody with a better eye could have a different opinion. Fine. As I said, the fight scenes awesome in terms of how they flowed and in terms of their choreography, and the blending of the traditional 2D on the CGI models definitely worked as well. Refreshing dynamic between Piccolo and Pan, and of course, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, for a movie that didn't really have Goku and Vegeta as the main, it really worked. It really worked, and it just makes me kind of sad that we didn't have something more like this earlier during Dragon Ball Super's anime run, because it works. Other characters can be of use, so I definitely liked it. It was really refreshing, honestly. So there was that, and of course there was this funny scene. The comedy in this movie is, it can be a bit, probably maybe cringy, maybe a bit corny, but it's Dragon Ball. It was fun, especially like with Beerus having a a crush on Chile. That was that was funny. Like this movie was like, it felt like it had a Toriyama touch of humor, I would say. So there's that. Now, in terms of what I didn't like about the movie, so first thing, during the scenes with Goku, Vegeta, Broly, training on Beerus's planet, the first thing that really struck me negatively about the movie was they made Goku it kind of felt there was a regression in Goku's character, because you have this scene where Vegeta's meditating, right? And of course you had that, there was a reference to Jiren, there's a line Vegeta had about Jiren in the movie, but yeah, there's this scene where Vegeta's meditating and trying to change the way he's approaches his fighting, and Goku's like, yo bro, what are you doing? You're just sitting there, that can't be training. I'm like, what? Goku, you've meditated tons of times before, so what are you talking about? And then it's like Whis has to come in and says, yo, there's more. I'm paraphrasing at this point, there's more to it than essentially just training your body to the limit. And I'm like, in my head, I'm reflecting on the Goku that came out of the hyperbolic time chamber, the room of spirit of time and time in the Cell Saga, and was saying to Vegeta like, yo bro, I'm gonna take 3 days rest, and I'm not gonna do an additional year, I gotta get some rest, it doesn't make sense training my body to the absolute limits, balance, all of that. And I'm saying, is this the same Goku? No bro, because this can't be it. So it kind of felt like it made Goku kind of, even though he didn't really have a ton of screen time in the grand scheme of things, they made Goku kind of, it felt like they regressed regressed him. Yeah. The second thing I didn't like about this movie, even though it's not as bad as the Boo Saga or Resurrection F, or it might be on par with the Tournament of Power, and what I mean is Gohan, right? Alright, this is just me. I don't think in 2022 we still need to be, even if they don't cross the line completely, I don't think in 2022 we still need to be dabbling or even just pinching or playing with the idea that Gohan is slacking off and not training anymore. It feels repetitive. Like, how many times are we going to touch on this this whole plot, this whole arc for Gohan's character of not training and then getting back into training? I don't know, but I don't know if it was just me, but even when Gohan was saying like, yo, Piccolo asked him like, yo, what if something happens, bro? And it's like, yeah, I can just depend on Goku and Dad and Vegeta. Like, man, that kind of ticked me off just a bit. I don't know if it was just me, but it ticked me off. So yeah, it kind of felt like just a bit of regression. It wasn't like bad, but I mean, Piccolo had to be doing things throughout the movie, apart from the aim of taking down the Red Ribbon Army. Like, he had to be doing things. He made decisions with the aim of trying to get Gohan back to peak form. So I didn't really like the fact that they played with that in the movie. If I'm being quite honest, it just felt because again, you've already done this whole arc in the Boo saga. You've already done this in Resurrection F, and then he started training, and then we had Piccolo prior to the Tournament of Power trying to go on back into peak form. So, and don't get me wrong, I know I'm not one of those persons who just want to see Gohan be that Cell Saga thing again, even though that would be nice, but I know it's part of his character. He doesn't really love to fight, but the whole arc, if you were to think about it logically, the whole arc that Gohan is supposed to go through is to find that balance between, yeah, I don't really like to fight, but I'm going to keep up my training to protect the persons that I love, and balance it with what I want to do, which is, scholar and all of that. So it kind of just felt really repetitive in the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, the new transformations in this movie, Orange Piccolo, still a ridiculous name, and Gohan Beast. Yes, the hair on Gohan Beast is ridiculous. No, of course, there's no explanation. There's no explanation for Gohan Beast. Of course, it is obviously tied to the whole, subtly recurring theme throughout the movie of Gohan. You need to get back to your training. Gohan, you can be the strongest person on earth. Gohan, you need to, try. It seemed like the transformation was tied to that whole running thing in the movie. But yeah, there's no explanation for it, and he unlocks it based on a fake out of Piccolo's death when they're in the final battle against Cell Max. So it's like, it's cool. It looks sick. I mean, the hair is ridiculous, but it looks sick. It's very reminiscent of the whole transformation to Super Saiyan 2 in the Cell Saga and the Cell games. But we need some more explanation for it. We need something going forward. But for this movie, yeah. My gripe with Orange Piccolo and Piccolo unlocking his potential via the Dragon Balls in this movie, it's not a bad thing, but like when you're watching a show or an anime, right? I think when certain events happen and a character could have done that particular action or event from prior, I think you have to establish why no? Why didn't you do it before? Because Piccolo goes to Dende to ask him to unlock his potential, right? And this is after fighting one of the Gamma androids, and he was saying like, and their power levels are a next discussion. I'll get to that. But yeah, he goes to Dende to unlock his potential. Dende says he can't do it, but he can upgrade Shenron to do it. Shenron, Bulma's collected the Dragon Balls because she continues to make trivial wishes on the Dragon Balls. Get rid of wrinkles. They a tighter, firmer behind. There's that. But yeah, so he gets the Dragon Balls from Bulma, gets his potential unlocked, and Shenron drops something extra in it, as Shenron says, which is his first big transformation, Orange Piccolo. Which I'm not gonna lie, it looks badass on screen. I'm not gonna lie. But my nitpick with it is like, why no? Why? In a real world sense, I know why. But it's like within the confines of the story, you'd think Piccolo would get his potential unlocked, and I've done this prior to the Tournament of Power. So it kind of feels like the new transformations in this movie kind of really exaggerates Toriyama's writing style of just doing things on the fly. No super long-term planning. It kind of just exaggerates that, if you ask me, because I just think Piccolo should have done this like probably even prior to the Tournament of Power, unlock his potential and all of that. So yeah, that's my other gripe or negative for the movie. But that aside, like the silver lining, at least these transformations do bring Gohan and Piccolo. I mean, they were somewhat relevant, but this kind of elevates them to some ridiculous levels in terms of relevance going forward. Because when you really do the power scaling within the movie, which is the next kettle of fish, but it's heavily implied or said, or what I take from it is that these Gamma androids, at least they should be Super Saiyan Blue level post Tournament of Power. Probably like Goku and Vegeta Super Saiyan Blue from the Broly movie. And Orange Piccolo basically surpassed them in power, essentially. So at least the silver lining, despite the forms not having any build up, or they like logically speaking, on Piccolo's side of things, it should have been something that happened before. But the silver lining is that it kind of does push them into a better place of relevance going for the future of the story. So that's the silver lining. So there's that. But yeah, the next thing I'd say is that the final fight against Cell Max, definitely exciting. I really love the group fight. You know, we had Android 18, Krillin, Goten, Trunks, and eventually Goten, well, Fat Gotenks, Piccolo, Gamma 1 and 2. It was a night. It was actually refreshing and fun to see a group fight against, the giant kaiju Cell Max. I'm kind of disappointed Gohan didn't really say anything, like, reflect on Cell or anything. It was actually Android 18 that kind of say, "Yo, Cell," or you know. So I kind of felt that was like a missed opportunity. I'm just saying. But yeah, that final group fight, that was nice. It was actually entertaining, really entertaining to see everybody just doing their best, trying to get in there and fight Cellmax. Yo, that was fun. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, that was exciting. Ooh. Of course, Goten and Trunks in this movie, this is 1 year before the end of Z, so they're in their teenage. They're should be what, 16 and 17. So yeah, they've finally aged them up in the Super era. Crazy, I know. The next tidbit that didn't make any sense in the movie to me was two things. It didn't make any sense, even but prior to fusing, Goten and Trunks not transforming into Super Saiyans. That didn't make any sense to me. What? And then two, the statement Vegeta had in terms of Jiren actually not being that much stronger than them. It was just how he fought. Which, what Vegeta was saying in terms of how you fight, that made sense. But no, fam. That didn't make any sense. We clearly saw that Jiren was hundreds to thousands of times stronger than you guys. Like Jiren versus everybody else at the start of the tournament of no, Jiren's like hundreds, thousands of times stronger than everybody. Vegeta, writers of that, you can't tell me no. That made no sense. So yeah. So despite the CGI, despite the dang it, lost my train of thought there. So despite CGI, despite the not being as hyped for it during the marketing of the movie, this ended up being a very enjoyable watch. I watched it in sub, even though I thought my theater would have had it in dub, but Japanese, English sub, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But I still want to see it in dub as well. But all in all, it's definitely an enjoyable movie. 7 to a 7.5. I was gonna say highly recommend, but definitely recommend seeing it. It's a fun watch, if nothing else. But yeah, it definitely sets the stage for characters to be relevant. There are a lot of gripes here and there, as you've heard me outline, but yeah. And fun fact, Gohan's eyesight sucks. Apparently, maybe apparently Gohan's eyesight sucks. I don't know, fam. It's ridiculous. It kind of felt like throughout the movies, like it kind of felt like throughout the movie, it's like, how should I say it? There's a lot of, come on, Gohan, what are you doing, dog? Come on, come on, Gohan, like it kind of felt like there was a lot of moments like that. But yeah, and of course, Pan learns to fly in this movie, so there was that. Apparently, Piccolo is training her apparently, and she's super intelligent for a 3-year-old. And apparently, she can sense ki. Yo, this was another. Go on. Apparently, Pan can pick up Piccolo in disguise, and Gohan can't. Jeez. But anyway, I've ranted on long enough. Definitely check out Dragon Ball Superhero. Let me know what you thought if you've seen the movie. I'm interested in talking about it more. Of course, the end of month subscriber stream is coming up, so we can definitely talk about the movie more at that point. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Yeah. You know, like when you were coming out of the Namek Saga and you're like, how does this random scientist guy at Earth make something stronger than Frieza? You kind of got that vibe. Like going to the movie, there was that vibe, and there is that vibe watching the movie. But you know, given that they have access to Gero's previous data, I guess there's some precedent, there's some foundation of how Gero's grandson, who's a bigger genius than Gero, can make androids as strong as literal gods, as Super Saiyan Blues. So I'm just saying. But anyway, let me know what you thought about my thoughts on the movie. Leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz and blues, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and one final thing. I didn't talk about the post-credit scene with Goku losing to Vegeta. Listen, I don't know why the writers wanted to make such a big deal out of this, or maybe the theater you went to, people made a big deal out of this, but listen, if you sit and think about it for 5 seconds, Goku has never technically beaten Vegeta ever in a one-on-one combat. I mean, I'm just saying. And plus, it was just a training session. So it's not that serious. Even though it was funny seeing Level and Broly cry, which we assume is because of how epic the fight was. It's ridiculous, dog. But anyway, see you guys.